Recording has started.
All right, welcome to Lab Assignment 12. Fortunately, our fourth member wasn't able to record with us, but she did manage to do her share of the questions. And so for question one, according to table one, for $1 you can get 113.25 Japanese yen in May of 2017. However, today you can get 104.83 Japanese yen for $1. This means that the dollar has less buying power than it did in 2017 because $1 can buy less yen today. That was for part B. For part C, we chose to use the euro in table one. So for $1 you can get 0.9154 euros in May of 2017. However, today you can get 0.8488 euro for $1. This also means that the dollar has lost its buying power. For question two, according to the purchasing power theory, the real exchange rate must be approximately equal across countries. For question three, part A, it states that did a massive fall in the price of Zimbabwe's currency happen in terms of other currencies? And yes, this is what happened in Zimbabwe. This is the case. And for part B, it's asking if hyperinflation also causes a rapid rise in the price of foreign currency. And that is also the case. It can also cause a rapid rise in the price of foreign currency. For question four, the World Bank would focus on the long-run health of developing countries, whilst the IMF would focus on short-run financial crises.
For question five, if last week the two countries had a one-to-one currency exchange, and now the Forbosian currency, 1 unit buys 2 units of the Bazuman currency, the Forbosian currency rose and it also became stronger and appreciated. For part B, if the currency of Malvolio becomes weaker, then $10 can buy more of the Malvolian currency now because the value of the currency has decreased. And then for part C, if a college student exchanges his money into euros and then the dollar weakens, then this is good news for him because he now can have more dollars than he would have if he had just kept his money in dollars. For question 6, if the Japanese government slows the rate of money, this will strengthen the yen against the dollar, meaning the yen has more value against the dollar. If in part B, when they slow the rate of money growth, the dollar is going to tend to depreciate against the yen. For part C, if Americans have an increased demand for Japanese cars, they're going to want more yen in order to buy those cars, so this will tend to strengthen the yen against the dollar. And then for part D, when they increase their demand for cars, the dollar will tend to depreciate since more people want yens and less people want dollars. For question 7, if the people who make euros decide to make tons more of them, that means there's going to be a shift in supply, and that'll shift the supply curve to the right since there's more supply, and then the price of the euro will go down. For part B, if companies decide they want to own more euros, that would be a shift in demand, and that'll shift the demand curve to the right since there's more quantity demanded, and the price of the euro will go up. For part C, if there's a slowdown in the production of euros, then that's also a shift in supply, and that'll shift the supply curve to the left since there's less quantity of euros in the market, and then that'll shift the price of euros up. And then for part D, if the price of apples rise, then that would be a weakening of the dollar since it takes more dollars to buy the same amount of apples. For question 8, if the news media puts out the headline, Chinese factories sell poisonous food, then less people are going to want to buy the Chinese dog food, and thus less people are going to want the Chinese yuan to buy the dog food. So there's a decrease in the demand which will shift the demand curve to the left and thus weakening the Chinese currency and also strengthening the dollar in relation to the yuan.
For question 9, we are asked what would Corey do as an entrepreneur if the price of a lighter is 50 cents in Utah but $1 in Nevada. So for part A, he would buy lighters in Utah and then sell them in Nevada. For part B, if other people start imitating Corey, the supply of lighters in Utah would decrease, but then the supply of lighters in Nevada would increase. If more people continue this behavior, the price of the lighters in Utah would increase, and then the price of the same lighters in Nevada would decrease. Using the one price law, it says that it will state that each state would have a price less than $1, and that price would be the same as the Utah price. So for question 10, if the price level in the United States doubles, this would cause the dollar to pound exchange rate to double, to increase to double of what it was before, meaning that the amount of dollars that it would take to buy a single pound would double. And then for part B, in the short run, if that is the case in the short run, this would be good news to British tourists that are headed to the United States, and it will be bad news for the US tourists that are staying in the United States. So for question 11, the gap between the demand and supply curve signifies the surplus of the Spartanian currency. For part B, the official reserve supply would increase in order to maintain the exchange rates. So for part C, if the demand for the Spartanians falls, the gap between the supply curve and the demand curve would increase in width, thereby making it harder to maintain the exchange rate, as the price would want to fall with greater voracity. And then for part D, if in order to reduce the gap, in order to bring the quantity supplied and the quantity demanded closer together, the government would need to raise money growth. And then for question 12, as of the 23rd of June 2016, the exchange rate of $1 to a pound was at $1.48. That's 1.4800. And then for part B, on the 27th of the same June 2016, the exchange rate of $1 to £1 was 1.3217. So that is $1.32 approximately. And between this space of time, the British pound has depreciated, which implies a decreased demand to hold them, as people are probably letting them go in larger supply. And then for part D, the event that likely caused this depreciation was that the referendum for Brexit had just been held, and Brexit was just confirmed. So people were letting go or getting rid of their British pounds due to the uncertainty of the British economic future. So thank you. This has been our lab. We appreciate you for listening.